Right now, as you're watching this, your brain might be operating at half capacity. Not because you're tired, not because you haven't had your coffee, but because somewhere along the way, without warning, it simply started to retreat. The lights are on, you're functioning, you're moving through your day, but something fundamental has shifted. You're no longer firing on all cylinders, and the most unsettling part? You adapted so gradually that you never even noticed the decline. This isn't about dramatic memory loss or sudden confusion. This is about the silent erosion that happens when your brain, overwhelmed and under-resourced, begins to quietly power down its higher functions, leaving you with just enough to get by, but nowhere near enough to truly thrive. If this resonates with you, if something about what I just said feels uncomfortably familiar, do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and turn on notifications, because what we're about to explore will fundamentally change how you understand your own mind and give you the tools to reclaim what you've lost. Let me paint you a picture that might feel painfully familiar. You sit down to read something important, maybe an article for work or a book you've been meaning to finish. Your eyes move across the words, you reach the end of the page, and then you realize you absorbed absolutely nothing. You have to go back and start over. Or perhaps you walk into a room with clear purpose, only to stand there completely blank, searching your mind for why you came. You laugh it off, blame it on being busy, on stress, on age, but deep down something nags at you. These aren't isolated incidents anymore. They're becoming your new normal. What happens inside your brain when it starts to give up isn't dramatic like a light switch flipping off. It's more like a dimmer switch slowly turning down over months or even years. Your brain is an extraordinarily demanding organ, consuming roughly 20% of your body's total energy despite making up only 2% of your body weight. Every thought you have, every memory you form, every decision you make requires energy, resources, and an intricate dance of neurochemicals and electrical signals across billions of neurons. When your brain doesn't get what it needs, when it's constantly running in deficit mode, it doesn't shut down completely. Instead, it begins a strategic retreat, scaling back operations and essentially going into survival mode. The problem is that survival mode brain keeps you alive and functional enough to handle basic tasks, but it sacrifices the very things that make you feel sharp, creative, engaged, and fully present in your life. Neuroscience has shown us that the brain operates on a principle called neuroplasticity, which means it's constantly changing and adapting based on how we use it and how we treat it. This is phenomenally good news because it means decline isn't inevitable or permanent. But it also means that negative patterns and chronic neglect can literally reshape your brain in ways that diminish its capacity. When Jim Kwik, one of the world's leading experts on brain performance, talks about the brain, he emphasizes that it's not fixed, that we're not stuck with the brain we have. He teaches that by changing our habits and how we engage with information, we can dramatically upgrade our mental performance at any age. This isn't motivational fluff. This is grounded in decades of neuroscience research. So what actually causes this quiet surrender? The answer is rarely one single thing, but rather a perfect storm of modern life conditions that your brain simply wasn't designed to handle. You're probably sleeping less than you need, maybe getting 5 or 6 hours when your brain requires 7 to 9 for proper maintenance and repair. During sleep, your brain activates a waste clearance system called the glymphatic system that literally flushes out toxic proteins and metabolic waste that accumulate during your waking hours. When you consistently shortchange your sleep, those toxins build up, neurons become less efficient, and cognitive function deteriorates. Then there's the information overload. Your brain is drowning in stimuli, notifications, news feeds, messages, and demands on your attention. Each one requires processing power, and when the flood never stops, your brain becomes like a computer with too many programs running simultaneously. Everything slows down, and eventually the system starts automatically shutting down non-essential functions just to keep operating. Nutrition plays a massive role that most people completely underestimate. Your brain needs specific building blocks to function properly. Omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, antioxidants, and stable blood sugar to fuel its constant activity. When you're running on processed foods, sugar spikes and crashes, and inadequate protein, You're essentially asking your brain to build a skyscraper with popsicle sticks. Chronic stress adds another devastating layer. When you're constantly in fight or flight mode, your body pumps out cortisol and adrenaline. Chronic elevation of these stress hormones is neurotoxic. It literally damages the hippocampus, critical for forming new memories and learning. It impairs the prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function and emotional regulation. Over time, chronic stress physically remodels your brain in ways that make you less capable of handling stress, creating a vicious cycle. Then there's the sedentary lifestyle epidemic. Your brain evolved in a body that moved constantly. Physical activity increases blood flow to the brain, stimulates the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is like fertilizer for neurons, and promotes neurogenesis. When you sit for hours on end, day after day, you're depriving your brain of one of its most powerful natural enhancement tools. Social isolation represents another often overlooked factor. Human brains are social organs. When you're isolated, when your interactions are reduced to brief text exchanges and superficial social media scrolling, your brain loses stimulation in areas responsible for empathy and social cognition. These regions literally begin to atrophy from lack of use. Here's what makes this situation so insidious. The brain's decline happens below the threshold of conscious awareness for a long time. You adapt. You compensate. You rely more heavily on external tools like your phone for memory. You avoid challenging cognitive tasks because they feel harder than they used to. You convince yourself that you're just getting older, that this is normal. What you're experiencing isn't the natural consequence of aging. It's the consequence of a lifestyle that systematically undermines brain health, and that means it can be reversed. Let's talk about what brain recovery actually looks like. The first and most powerful intervention is fixing your relationship with sleep. During deep sleep, your brain consolidates memories. During REM sleep, it processes emotions and makes creative connections. When you prioritize 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep on a consistent schedule, you give your brain the opportunity to repair and restore. Within weeks of improving sleep, most people notice sharper thinking, better memory, improved mood, and increased resilience. The second major lever is reducing cognitive load and managing attention intentionally. This means becoming ruthlessly selective about what gets access to your mental resources. Your brain wasn't designed for continuous partial attention, constantly switching between tasks and notifications. Every time you switch your attention, there's a cognitive cost. The solution is to create boundaries and structure. Designated times for checking messages rather than constant interruption. Deep work blocks where you focus on one thing completely. Jim Kwik talks extensively about the importance of focus training, treating attention like a muscle that strengthens with practice. Simple practices like meditation, even just 10 minutes a day, have been shown to increase gray matter density in regions associated with attention and emotional regulation. Nutrition is the third pillar. Your brain needs real food, meaning food that existed in nature rather than being manufactured in a factory. It needs healthy fats from sources like fish, avocados, nuts, and olive oil. It needs lean proteins to provide amino acids for neurotransmitter production. It needs colorful vegetables and fruits packed with antioxidants. It needs stable blood sugar and adequate hydration. You don't need a perfect diet. You need a consistently good enough diet that provides your brain with the raw materials it needs to function optimally. Movement is the fourth pillar, and the science here is absolutely unequivocal. Exercise is the single most powerful intervention we have for brain health. Cardiovascular exercise increases blood flow, delivering more oxygen and nutrients to brain tissue. It stimulates the release of growth factors that support neuron health. Resistance training has been shown to improve executive function and memory. Even simple walking reduces mental fatigue and enhances creative thinking. The prescription isn't complicated. Move your body most days and make it challenging enough to elevate your heart rate. Cognitive challenge represents the fifth essential element. Your brain is a use it or lose it organ. The neural pathways you use regularly get stronger. The ones you neglect weaken. This means you need to regularly engage your brain in ways that challenge it. This could be learning a new language, playing a musical instrument, tackling complex puzzles, reading challenging material, or learning a new skill. The key is that it needs to be genuinely challenging. Jim Kwik emphasizes active learning, where you're engaging with material, asking questions, and making connections. This kind of active cognitive engagement builds cognitive reserve, essentially a buffer that protects against decline. Social connection is the sixth pillar, and emerging research suggests it might be more important than we ever realized. Meaningful social interaction activates multiple brain systems simultaneously. You're reading facial expressions, interpreting tone, generating responses, and managing emotions all at once. This comprehensive brain workout keeps multiple regions active and healthy. Loneliness and isolation have been shown to increase inflammation and accelerate cognitive decline. The solution doesn't require a massive social circle. It requires genuine connection with even a few people where you feel seen, heard, and valued. Here's where this all comes together. The day your brain quietly gave up wasn't a day at all. It was a gradual process driven by circumstances and choices that accumulated over time. But if decline happened gradually through choices and circumstances, recovery can happen gradually through different choices and circumstances. You're not broken. You're not permanently damaged. You're operating a sophisticated biological system that responds predictably to how it's treated. Treat it poorly, and it will underperform. Treat it well, and it will exceed your expectations. The transformation doesn't happen overnight. Neuroplasticity is powerful, but it takes time. You might notice small improvements within days as sleep and hydration improve. More substantial changes typically emerge over weeks to months as new habits become established. But the trajectory matters more than the timeline. If you're investing in your brain health consistently, the compounding effects over months and years are profound. Something I want you to understand deeply is that this isn't about perfection. It's about recognizing that your brain is the organ through which you experience literally everything in your life. When your brain is functioning poorly, everything suffers. When it's functioning well, everything improves. This makes brain health the foundation upon which everything else in your life is built. If you found value in this exploration, if something here clicked for you or gave you hope, show your support by subscribing to this channel and leaving a like. This helps more people discover this information and begin their own journey back to full cognitive capacity. Your brain didn't give up because it's weak or defective. It gave up because it was overwhelmed, under-resourced, and underprotected. The moment you decide to change that, the moment you commit to treating your brain with the respect and care it deserves, everything begins to shift. The fog starts to lift. The sharpness returns. The person you know you're capable of being starts to emerge again. That version of you, operating at full capacity, thinking clearly, learning easily, remembering effortlessly, engaging fully with life, that person isn't gone. They've just been waiting for you to create the conditions that allow them to return.